Okay, to the series that I'm honestly thinking about just finishing. Honestly. Because I think I've done these on more than half the league now, so I might as well just finish them up. How good or how bad is it for Minnesota? On the upside, they make the playoffs almost every year. On the downside, they tend to be out in the first round. So, let's see, this past season they were ninth. The year before they were fifth. Year before that they were 16th or 17th overall in the standings. And then before that they were 11th, 10th. So yeah, they're usually right in the mix. But are they getting closer to or further away from being a contender? Let's take a look. Down the left side, you got Zucker, Parise, Niederreiter, and Foligno. I love Marcus Foligno. I think he's a good player, but you don't look to him for goals or offense. Decent bottom six guy though. Niederreiter likely plays ahead of Parise, depending on Parise's health. Now, if you listen to Zach Parise talk right now, he says I'm 100%. That's what they say. He's not going to say, "Oh man, I'm done. I'm feeling my age today." No, you don't say that. You go, "Yeah, I feel fine." Down the middle, they got Stahl, Koivu, Eriksson, Greenway, and Fair. Now, can Stahl replicate that 40-goal season? I don't think so. But Koivu's still excellent, and Eriksson has to start putting in goals, doesn't he? Eriksson was so frustrating last year to watch, and I don't cheer for or against Minnesota. I was just frustrated watching him because the talent is there. It's a matter of being able to get over that hump, and I don't know that. I think they'll give him one more year, and if it's not going to work out, and especially if Greenway comes in and takes that spot. If Greenway ends up being the third line center and Eriksson ends up on the fourth, Eriksson is not a guy you want as your fourth line center. He could find himself being on the trade list for the Minnesota Wild before Christmas. On the right side, Granlund, Coyle, Rao, Brown, Hendricks. The big name is Cunnin. Luke Cunnin, who right now is injured, and it's a matter of when he comes back. If he comes back, and if he is as good as he's projected to be, he'll slot into potentially this number 2 spot, bump Coyle down, and then Rao and Brown would fight it out for fourth line with Hendricks. But that's uncertain at this point until a guy comes back from injury. I hesitate to say anything grand and wonderful about what a greatest return is going to be because we just don't know these days. Players seem to be more secretive now about their injury situations than ever. So he's listed as 7 months out from when he had the operation, which would put him not horribly far into the season when he comes back, but until he comes back, we'll see. If they need goals from Coyle, there may be an issue. Unless he's Charlie Coyle of a couple years ago and not of this past year. I like Charlie Coyle, though. I still do, and I'm still banking on a comeback by him. On the blue line, things get interesting, too. The top 4 is pretty sensational. Suter, Dumba, Brodin, Spurgeon. It's past that which guys are going to be those bottom 2 guys. Patterson will have the inside track. Sealer might, but you've still got Prosser, Olofsson, Bartkowski, who they signed as a free agent, and is Ryan Murphy ever going to be an NHL player? Probably not. This is probably his last chance. So you got 10 guys here who are all known as either prospects or as veterans or hockey players in the NHL, and the Wild will pick the top 6, probably the top 7. You usually keep a 7th defenseman on the roster just in case of injury. And I could see that being Bartkowski. I could see it being Prosser. I could see it being Olofsson. We'll see what they do. And then in net, they have Dubnyk and Stalock. And then as an insurance policy, Andrew Hammond is theirs number 3 guy. And, of course, he came in and he was kind of heroic for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think that's part of the reason why he got a shot with the Wild here. Andrew Hammond reminded people that he seems to be better at the National Hockey League level than he is at the American Hockey League level, which is unusual, but it does happen. So when I look at this team, and in general, I see a number of guys who could score 20 goals this year. I could see 6 20-goal scorers on the forwards. I could see 3 decent offensive seasons from their blue line. I could see another solid season from Devin Dubnyk. Dubnyk plays well. And it's easy to remember, and I said this the other day too, his series against Winnipeg ended ugly, but it wasn't his fault they were down against the Winnipeg Jets. He played really well to start that series. By the time it started falling apart for him, Minnesota had already mailed it in. So it really depends on how you see this. If you're a Wild fan and you're like, you know what, I'm optimistic about this season, then you should be. You absolutely should be, because this team could very well do it. They could make it into the playoffs and do some damage. If you're on the other side of the fence and going, you know what? It's time for Minnesota to probably miss the playoffs this year. I can totally get on that too, because I'll be honest, when I'm trying to figure out how the standings are going to go this year, Minnesota's right on that border. They are right on that border for me, because in my eyes there are some teams who've got better, St. Louis being the big example, and I don't know that Minnesota's going to be able to hold off St. Louis. Then you factor in that Colorado looks like they've finally got things figured out. Nathan McKinnon has finally become that superstar that he was drafted to be, and it gets really perilous for the Minnesota Wild. The way that they went out against Winnipeg doesn't make it look a whole lot better. Again, it really is a 50-50. I'll add this to both the how good is it and how bad is it lists, because they are, to me, one of those teams that's right teetering on the edge. Are they good enough? Are they not? It's impossible to say right now, because so much of it relies on Stahl has to have another really excellent season, and I don't think any of us expected the year he just had. Now, on their side with this is that Stahl is in a contract year. So the odds of him keeping it up when it's contract year, they're better than they would be otherwise. Rumor had it, of course, that Paul Fenton asked for a no trade list and was looking at the possibility of trading Stahl. I haven't heard anything more about that. All the trade fronts seem to have just died off. It's like everybody went, you know what, screw it, we're going to go golfing. Carlson, Skinner, all you guys can all just rest. Just don't worry about it. We're all going golfing. I really believe that Stahl sticks around with Minnesota. I'd be really surprised to see him get moved. There would be teams that might want him because of the possibility of 40 goals, and his cap hit is pretty decent for the amount of potential output you're going to get for it. But what kind of a hole does that leave down the middle if Minnesota were to trade him out? So I'm not going to factor that in right now because I don't think it happens. But let me know what you guys think, especially as a Minnesota Wild fan, and how much do Parise and Suter right now look like. I mean, Suter is not an albatross at this point, but the contract is, as is Parise's. And what other pieces could you add if you had more cap flexibility? That's a question that I think will be asked a lot of Minnesota if they do falter and if they do fall out of the playoffs. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And how good is it? How bad is it? Really depends on how you see it. Let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon.